Is the Quran historically reliable? This episode is based on Dr. Rafat Amari's book, Quran and History. This is Daniel Amari from the Religion Research Institute. This episode is titled Simon. In this episode, we will be examining the account of the Quran of a person called the Samaritan, or Al-Samiri in Arabic. The details provided in the Quran, combined with the context of Islamic tradition, points to Simon the Samaritan. Let's look at the Quranic claim about Simon. Surah 20, verse 85 and 86. He said, "So surely we have tried your people after you, and the Samaritan has led them astray. So Moses returned to his people, wrathful, sorrowing. Said he, O my people, did not your Lord promise you a goodly promise? Did then that time seem long to you, or did you wish that displeasure from your Lord should be due on you, so that you broke your promise to me?" And we read from the Quran, from the same surah, verses 87 and 88. They said, "We did not break our promise to you for our own accord, but we were made to bear the burdens of the ornaments of the people. Then we made a casting of them, and thus did the Samaritan suggest. So he brought forth for them a calf, a mere body, which had a mooing sound. So they said, 'This is your God and the God of Moses,' but he forgot." And we read from verses 95 and 96. He said, "What was then your object, O Samaritan?" He said, "I saw Gabriel, what they did not see. So I took a handful of the dust from the footsteps of the messenger, then I threw it in the casting. Thus did my soul commend to me." And from verse 97. He said, "Begone then, surely for you it will be in this life to say, 'Touch me not.' And surely there is a threat for you, which shall not be made to fail to you. And look at your God, to whose worship you kept so long. We will certainly burn it, then we will certainly scatter it, a wide scattering in the sea." Let's analyze these verses. The Quran claims happened during the known event of Moses and the people of Israel about 15th century BC. The Quran claims that the person who made the golden calf was the Samaritan and not Aaron. The Quran refers to the Samaritan as the Samaritan, not a Samaritan. This indicates that this Samaritan person is known by the immediate audience of Muhammad. There is little doubt that this Samaritan was Simon, the sorcerer of the book of Acts of the Bible. The Quran attributed the capability of doing great signs, including creating golden calf, whose mooing meant that it is alive. This further enforces that it was Simon, the sorcerer, who practiced great sorcery. In the early centuries after Christ, the ability to create was attributed to Simon. Likewise, the Quran claimed so. There is a striking similarity between Peter's rebuke of Simon, the Samaritan, and the books of Acts and his punishment, as it is portrayed in the apocryphal writings. And on the other hand, Moses' rebuke of the Samaritans in the Quran. Summary. Let's summarize what the Quran is saying in all of these verses. The Quran described the incident of the golden calf with Moses 15th century BC. The Quran stated that the Samaritan was the one who made the calf. He was able to create a calf and put life in it. He borrowed that life from the dust under Gabriel to give it to the cow. He was rebuked harshly by Moses. What about history? What does history tell us about the claims of the Quran? Historically, Samaritans did not exist before the 6th century BC, yet the Quran places one of them in the 15th century BC. Moreover, the particular Samaritan, Simon, the sorcerer, lived in the 1st century AD. There is a difference of about 1,500 years between Simon and Moses. Let's look at the sources of the Quran. The Quran took two different accounts, one about Moses and the other about Simon, and mixed them with each other. Furthermore, the Quran depended on multiple sources to construct its narration. In addition to what Muhammad has heard from Jewish tribes about Moses, the followings are sources about Simon the Samaritan. The apocryphal book Acts of Peter, dated about maybe 2nd century AD, claimed that Simon used magic to make dead men appear to be alive without actually raising them from the dead. The Quranic idea of isolation of the Samaritan, who was not to be touched by anyone, is seen in the apocryphal writing, such as the book of Acts of Peter, which described the punishment of Simon the Samaritan, as all should avoid him. The writings of the Pseudo-Clementine, the 4th century AD, some of which were translated into Arabic and Syriac, Simon is described as having the ability to give life to statues, which matches the Quran description of what Simon has done to the golden calf. According to the Clementine recognitions, Simon had abilities to borrow life from living beings, then insert that borrowed soul into a solid object, therefore making it alive. This is actually the foundation of the Quranic myth. The Samaritan magician borrowing life from Gabriel, which is the dust from under the horse of Gabriel, and inserted to the golden cow. How did these writings come to Mecca? The church father Epiphanius reported that the Ebionites used these Pseudo-Clementine writings. He also reported that the Ebionites spread in Arabia. Well, Waraqa bin Nawfal, the mentor of Muhammad, was an Ebionite. This is very important information, that when it comes to New Testament persons, the Quran copies from apocryphal books. They're later apocryphal books, but at least they are centuries before the Quran. This is Daniel Amari from the Religion Research Institute.